few weeks ago is still on your health and you. We know that you'll be blessed as we continue, as we discuss these intriguing topics, and as we discuss topics that will provoke you. Yes, it will cause you to think seriously about your life, and it will also cause you to understand where you are in terms of your health. So call a friend and let them know that we are here on Second Advent Radio at this time. Also, want to say a big shout out to all our friends in Barbuda. Yes, Pastor Scarborough and Sister Scarborough over there in Barbuda and the brethren over there. Thank you for clocking into Second Advent Radio at this time. Also to Pastor Louis and his family and the rest of the church family in Montserrat. Yes, we want to thank you for tuning in Second Advent Radio. Also to Pastor Smith and Pastor Elliott and Pastor Adam in St. Kitts. Yes, yes, in St. Kitts, yes, and also Sister Bailey. I know she's locked in. Welcome you, Sister Bailey and family, and also the others there. And then also Pastor Brown and Pastor Josiah and Nevis. Yes, Nevis, Queen City Nevis. Welcome you. And also Brother Kelly. I know he's there listening. And Sister Lashley. Yes, we welcome you, two of our ardent listeners. We are glad you could have joined us, and we know that your hearts will be blessed as you listen again today on our program this afternoon. This afternoon, we have a very interesting topic for you. And let me just say here that we want to thank those of you who are listening, yes, and you're following. And you may hear me repeat things time after time, but the repetition is to enforce. And every topic is a link. And so you may find me going back to the beginning sometime to share and to remind us of something that was said before and to show you the link up. So I want you to follow closely. Take a pen, take a notebook, and when you're finished, do like the Bereans in the Bible. Just don't take my word. Go and search. Ask questions. Ask your doctor, ask your healthcare provider, ask your nutritionist, and let them verify that if what you're hearing is correct. I don't have a problem you asking them because I'm confident that what you're hearing is nothing but the truth, the naked truth, and the God's truth. All right, so call a friend. Let them know we're in here at this time. But before we begin, as usual, we're going to bow our heads as we pause for prayer. Lord, we want to thank you for another day. And it's a beautiful day. Thank you for the sunshine. Thank you for the showers of rain that we've gotten for 2 days. And we want to just thank you for remembering us at this time. Now, as we go into this broadcast, Lord, we pray you'll speak to us today. Speak to me, speak to your people, and may we understand your will for our lives. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Now, every time we come, we're going to hear me recite or repeat this text from Psalms 139, verse 14. I praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and my soul know it quite well. You know, folks may be wondering, why do you keep repeating that? Now, if you look at most churches, those mega churches, you notice that they have something that you repeat every time. And it's for emphasis. They want you to keep that in mind. And the same thing, I want you to understand that you're fearfully and wonderfully made. And if you're fearfully and wonderfully made, then it means that you got to be more careful in terms of how you treat your body. Because you are a steward. And as a steward, God is going to require you, or God is requiring you to be more mindful of the way you live, what you do, how you eat, how you sleep, how you work. All these things are important because it helps to either build you up or to break you down. All right? Now, some folks might be wondering, why do we keep stressing food and nutrition? Because, hey, listen to me. We are what we eat and we can't get away from it. And as you will listen, you're going to see the link in terms of why we need to go back there. Because it's the only way, or it was God's way. You're going to discover that man has sought many inventions. Yes, God gave man wisdom, but in giving him wisdom, sometimes he abused it and he used it for his own purposes. And so we're going to discover this evening that God is careful in terms of what he requires of us, and he has not changed. Yeah, he has not changed. And so I want us to recognize that God has not changed. And because God has not changed, we need to keep these things in mind. And so today our topic is going to be nature to the rescue. Nature to the rescue. Now, we live in a society where We have many folks who are concerned about nature, about the natural environment, yeah, the environmentalists and those advocates and so on. Nothing is wrong in trying to preserve the environment, right? Because that's also part of stewardship. I must tell you that it's part of stewardship. But sometimes we go to the extreme to preserve one thing, maybe because it creates an economic opportunity for us, or because we like nature and we prefer to see things remain in its natural form. Nothing wrong with that. And also, there are those who believe that if you disturb the natural order of things, you could destroy the environment and you wouldn't have any more beauty and so on to behold. But the truth of the matter is, if you're going to have development, or if you're going to build a home, or build an industry, or even doing farming, especially on a large scale, it means that you have to clear the land, and by extension, certain things are going to get destroyed in the process, but there has to be a balance, right? And so when we look back to nature as a rescue, we don't want to think about nature in terms of the environment, but we want to think about nature in terms of our supply of food, the way by which we get our food and our sustenance. Now, we discovered last week, we talked about the soil and what the soil did for us, or what has happened to the soil. And we're going to continue a little bit with that and then move on to other areas so you can see the link up as we go along. Now, the 1960s gave birth to a social phenomenon some have called environmental awareness, as we just talked about it. Yeah. And you want to know what that has to do with health? Listen, you're going to find out. All right? Now, scientists presented strong warnings about the destructive streams flowing from the toxic industrial wellspring of our nation, warning about the consequences for the future due to our increasingly polluted air, earth, and water. Now, we hear about a lot about climate change and the high pollution and so on, and we see these things on the news and the TV. Cities that are blanketed with smoke and mist because of the high volume of manufacturing and coal and all this other stuff, fuel and so on, burning. And so even automobiles, everything is emitting a level of toxic that is not good for the environment. All right? And over time, these things could have a detrimental effect or negative consequences on our human life, on our lifestyle. All right? Now, there has been efforts made to create new laws and new this and new that in an effort to preserve the environment. But with the advent of the Industrial Revolution and the need to manufacture on a larger scale now, we find that our system, nature, which should provide our basic sustenance and the process by where we get the best nourishment now, that nature is now in jeopardy. But in spite of the fact that it's in jeopardy, it's the only way out to save man. Honestly, the only way out to save mankind. And so, before we even go into things like diseases and all this kind of stuff, we need to understand about the fact that, as I said before, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And because of that, we need to see the background. We need to see why we were fearfully and wonderfully made. And we need to see what our Creator God has created for us, even before we were born or before we were created. Everything was created for us. And to be fair, yes, those of us who believe in the biblical account of creation and believe in the worldwide flood phenomena, we recognize that even the advent of that flood way back in Bible times, over 2,000 years ago, that would have caused some significant disruption of the earth. In other words, because we're told from the Bible, those of us who believe the Bible, that the fountains of the deeps were broken up and showers came from above. And so water was coming from all levels. So the soil was turned upside down, inside out. That's why you find now when you scientists and geologists and all these guys go to excavate and so on and to look at what was there before, you notice that they come with all kind of coloration, and they use carbon 14 to basically, it's a way by which they try to check to see how old certain things are, etc. But to be fair, we have a situation where the Earth's natural environment was turned upside down, inside out because of that flood. And so, even after the flood, the Creator God, because everything was destroyed now, He gave man permission to eat certain kinds of meat. Yeah? And so, we find that God, in His wisdom, makes sure that He provides for man his every need. But then, to be fair also, God first gave us the herbs, fruits, nuts, and grains, and then He said to replenish the earth and to subdue it. But then, because of the flood, we see what happens. And then it took a while now for the vegetation to reoccur as before, right? So man would have subsisted on meat for a while, probably maybe a couple of years before the soil. And if we're going to look back at what we studied last week in terms of how long it takes for the soil to be replenished, you will understand that it will have taken a while. But still, God, in His love and wisdom, would have provided what man needed even during that interim period. All right? And so we need to recognize that nature is here to save us. It was there before us. It was there that God created that environment whereby we can be nourished, we can be fed. Also, all right, and so we recognize the advent of the industrial world with all the machineries and the emission of smoke, the locomotives and all these engines that were brought in during those times. You know, they came in, and before they were able to refine them, you notice that they used to emit a lot of black smoke. Yeah, and that smoke would have been emitted for miles and miles, and where it's going, it's landing in homes, it's landing on crops, it's landing in water because you have rain tracks that are over rivers of water, over dams, and over large bodies of water. So when you travel the world over, you recognize that the pollution is taking place everywhere. But not only on land, airplanes fly overhead, they emit something too that gets in the environment, and the ships on the high seas, they to emit things. Well, of course, science has advanced, technology has advanced, so we find out that they're trying their best to have vehicles and machinery that are able to emit less of this carbon monoxide and all these toxins so that we can create a better environment. But the truth is, I think we have reached a point where we have depleted our reserve to the point now where what can we find good in nature now? Everywhere is polluted. Yes, there's those who are trying to save it, yes, but the truth of the matter is, it's already gone down a path, but I'm not sure how much they could save it. But then again, God still, in His mercy, have allowed us to enjoy the environment. He allowed us to enjoy the beach, the rivers. He have allowed us to enjoy nice garden. Some have botanical garden, some have parks, some have big places where you can go relax and enjoy nature, which is good. All these were made for man, but then because of the large-scale manufacturing and demand for food and other products, now not just food, but industrial products like cars and vehicles and airplanes and machinery and all this stuff, because with the evolution, the industrial revolution now, it meant therefore that what 1,000 folks used to do now, it is cut down drastically to a few hundreds. And then nowadays now, it is cutting even further. Now, there's some countries that used to employ thousands of folks in manufacturing, but now, because of the advance of technology, they have brought in more machinery, automated plants, and so on. And so a product comes at one end, and then it goes to the other end, and it's being manufactured in quick time. All right? Being manufactured in quick time. And so what is happening there now? Because of the speed in which the food is manufactured, or what you manufacture, it's not just food, but automobile and spare parts and other kind of stuff. It is done in such a fast way now that it eliminates people from working one, And then because of the speed in which it goes now, you're going to normally find there are a few of these products that are going to be inferior. Yes, they're going to be inferior. And so it could cause accidents, incidents, and by extension, those who are responsible for growing food and manufacturing food, they apply the same process so it is fast, yeah, fast movements, yes. And so you find that we no longer take time now to do things. We're on the fast lane. And through the process of manufacturing things fast now, we're not getting the quality that we need to get. All right? And the sad reality, one of the biggest problem or we suffer from is the fact that we're getting food that from the soil it's already been depleted in its mineral content. And then, of course, as man, we try to fortify or we try to come up with things in the lab that we suggest is good or even better than nature. I don't know what you have that is going to be better than nature. But I want to say to us, dear folks, even though God gave man wisdom and God gave the scientists wisdom, the scientist's wisdom comes from God himself. And so if God is the author of science, then how can you eliminate God out of the equation? And if God gave us what we need from the beginning and said these are what is good for food, and he said it was good, how can we improve on it? We can't. The creator God already said this is good, this is what we need, and so therefore I cannot improve on what God says. No, I cannot. I may try to get ahead of somebody else like me, but when it comes to God, I can't get above God. I can't outdo God because God's word is final and he has not changed. All right? Now, another thing that was happening too is that they have the back to the land movement. All right? So, one consequence of this environmental awareness phenomena was called the back to the land movement. People returning to the farms and rural areas to grow foods the natural way and to build up the soil organically. They believed that to live healthy lives and have healthy children, it was necessary to eat wholesome, natural food obtained from what? Healthy soil. Now, what is happening there? After the Industrial Revolution started to take place now, not only were we producing food on a mass scale now, but people are shifting from the countryside now. The Industrial Revolution now caused things to be centered in the towns now, so the factories were on the outskirts or in the town itself, and all the other stuff, everything was just town. That's why up to today, you find that everybody gets up to work, they go into the town or they go into some place. Why? Because we have been able to build up areas where we call industrial zones or market zone or whatever. And so we find we start to centralize now. We start to have one central place. Everybody's going town. So the school is in town, hospital in town, clinics in town. Nowadays, they find out they're trying to put clinics on the outskirts now where to avoid the congestion in town. But you know why that started? Because of the Industrial Revolution now. Everything was centered. And because everything was centered now, people are moving away from the rural environment. They're moving from the farmland. And some folks who have farmland and have crops in the land actually gave up the farm to find work in the town area. That's what was happening. And then what does it do now? The few farmers who are left now, they have to now manufacture food in such large proportion now. And through that process now, we do not get the quality we need, because what is happening is that some lands have been left untouched for years, and some have been worked to their detriment. Yeah, in a lot of countries around the Caribbean, in the Americas and Europe, everywhere, you find a lot of farmlands have been abandoned. Why? Because of the high cost of doing the farming. Yeah, a lot of farms are in receivership, and some countries they get subsidy so they could be able to. The farmers can be able to survive. And even here in Antigua, you're hearing the folks are calling for relief. They want the government or whoever to assist them because things ain't looking as bright as it was before. Why? Because of the process now. The process has taken a toll now, and everybody wants to do something on a large scale. Huh? Everybody wants to do something on a large scale. Everybody wants to do something on a large scale, and by that they are hoping that they can gain success. Now, because of the depletion of nature's soil, the soil that we need now, you might be hearing me emphasizing this all along because it's important for us to understand that because of the depletion of the quality of the soil that we have to use, by nature we're going to get a inferior product called food. It's just like if you manufacture an aircraft with if inferior material. It means therefore that the aircraft is going to malfunction at the wrong time, probably in midair, or maybe not in midair but on ground. Because what? And we're very careful. We have found a way to make sure that the material used to build cars and to build aircrafts and to build boats and other kind of stuff, that these material are material of a quality that it can stand up for years. I remember in the years growing up where vehicles would have lasted for years because of the way they were built. But nowadays, vehicles are not built to last because the manufacturing industry, those who manufacture things now, they're making things to last for a short period so that they can have a chance to turn over, money turnover fast, and they can expand. And as the money comes in, they keep expanding. And as they keep expanding now, the quality starts to diminish all the time. And if you notice, check it out, you realize that the process by which we're doing things nowadays is one of the reasons why we are having a depletion in the quality of stuff, etc. Went to the doctor for a checkup, and you discover that the question they ask you, they take your history and they drill you on about everything, your lifestyle, your diet, everything. And they to encourage you now to go back to basic. Yeah, go back to basic. So there is no issue in us, there's no competition, there's no bashing anybody. Because the same thing I'm saying, what they're saying, need to go back to nature's way. Because they're too overwhelmed with the amount of situation they have to deal with, and most of this stem from lack of nutrition. Right? Lack of nutrition. And to get the right nutrition, you gotta go back to the soil. There's no way around it. Now, let's look a little bit at another area, the wheel of life. The wheel of life. Now, organic farming is patterned after nature's way of building up and maintaining soil called the wheel of life. Remember, I said last week and the week before that the soil is where we get the nutrients from. So, man, as well as the soil, we need the same kind of chemical component or chemical substances to survive. The same things the soil needs, man needs. Right? And so the wheel of life has to do with the fact that there's a cycle. There's growth, there's death, there's decay, there is decomposition, and the new life comes up. And so what is happening now, for us to really truly benefit now, we got to allow nature to do its work. And for us to allow nature to do its work, then we have to spend time. Give nature the time to replenish itself. So we can't deplete the soil and expect the soil to maintain its quality. No. And the way the soil maintains its quality is not the adding of chemical and fertilizers. The soil is able to break down all the shrubs and the dead leaves and the dead animals that are there and the worm that are there, the earthworm. All these are what nature has put in place to replenish itself. And so when we refuse to use these or we don't use these, then that's what we have composed. These things are pro growth, and pro mix, and all these things. What did they do? They're going back to nature's way. They are looking at how they can imitate nature by putting these things there. The stuff that you buy in the supermarket or the plant store, right? That you germinate your seeds in and so on, pro mix and all these things. What do you think they are? They are composed of the same thing. They are composed of the same thing that I talked about, the dead shrubs, the bark of trees, leaves, and so on. What they do, they allow this thing to cure. And even some folks in the backyard used to take all the peelings from the plants and from the vegetable fruits and so on, and they store these in a bucket or something, or they put them in the soil, mix in soil, and leave them in a particular area there for a while. And these things become rich for the soil. These are what the soil needs. And so when you start to grow food in those areas now, you're going to get quality food. And we do it in our backyard all the time. And so it's nature way, but then on a large scale, you might be saying, well, on a large scale, it's not that good because of time and because of the amount of food that we have to produce. But you have to also understand too that the Industrial Revolution has caused us to shift. And so a culture or a new way of thinking evolved. And to survive in that new way of thinking then now, machineries had to be produced in abundance now. And so we have a lot of automated machinery to build all kind of stuff, including the manufacturing of food, etc. All right? And so because of that now, we have to now get back to nature, because what? This process is not really helping. And you understand why I'm saying that. Okay? Now, leaves, twigs, grasses, dead trees, and other matter form a layer on the top of the soil, and they begin to decay. All right? So the leaf matters and dead trees and shrubs and dead insects and all these things now, they are on top of the soil. So when you get up in the morning or you walk through a wooded area, you're going to see a lot of dead shrubs and dead leaves. And as a matter of fact, I have some fruit trees in my yard, and after they would have finished growing and the fruit has run its course now, you notice that all the leaves come off the trees. And it looked like if, well, they're almost dry and rotten. To be fair, some are still green, but there are quite a bit of dead ones in it. And so something you find me going through and just tapping and picking the dead ones and throw them aside. And soon after that now, you find they start to spring new leaves, new blossom, and then fruit start to grow again. But what happened to this dead thing now? These dead branches now, they drop below the tree, and what they do? They keep replenishing the soil. They keep adding to the soil. They keep giving to the soil. That's why we get good mangoes. Why? Because if you notice a mango tree does, the dead leaves or the dead stump or the dead twigs and branches, they keep on dropping. And when they drop, they not only breed worm and insect, but they also, you notice that they form the earth, the dirt kind of come over them and so on. What? The ants is producing all these kind of colonies. And then you have the earthworm and all these now. And these stay there, and what they do now? They are decomposing right there. And so they are replenishing the soil with the chemical the soil needs, so that when you plant your food now, you're going to get the quality you need. Yes, you're going to get the quality you need. And so if you have a backyard that you have not worked for a couple of years now, and you cut the grass down and you turn up the soil, you're going to have a very rich soil there. You're going to have a good soil there that when you put anything there to grow, man, they're going to grow very fast. And that's what we're talking about, going back to nature. That's why we have nature to the rescue. And if nature rescues you, then you're rescued, you're in good hands. And then you're going to get the best food, you're going to get the best nutrients, your body's going to be built up, you're going to be strong and healthy, and you will not get disease as easily. I'm not saying they're going to get disease, but not as easily. All right? And so, now, to add to this, you have animals' waste, birds' droppings, wind-blown debris. Not only are the biochemicals element restored to the soil, but the layer of the decaying organic matters serve as mulch, yeah? Protecting the root system of young plants and holding in grown moisture. All right? So what we're seeing is that these things are the nature where God put them there. God allowed these things to happen so that we can replenish the soil and we can have the right chemical balance in the soil. Now, yes, there are places in the world where things are that bad that the soil is so depleted that they have to add things to the soil. Unfortunately, that happens. But then it doesn't make it the right way neither. Nature's way is the best way. So we have to find a way. I know in some countries in the world there's a lot of sand and dust, and the soil not the best to grow food in, and so they have to basically import a lot of stuff. Or if it's on one landmass, it means that they have to truck and carry food from distance here and distance there just to replenish those areas where you cannot farm, etc. I mean, let's be honest, not all the soils are the best soils for farming. All right? Not all the soils are the best soils for farming. So you got to make sure that you understand that as well. Now, now we talked about the worm. Yes, we talked about it last week, but then we're going to repeat again for emphasis. The worm, nature soil conditioner. All of us like to use conditioner head and other things and so on to make our hair look good and feel soft and nice when we comb it. Earthworm does the same thing to the soil. It moistens the soil. In other words, the earthworm not only travels on top, but it travels beneath the soil. And you find earthworm when you dig up the soil. Either you dig it up to look for the worm itself to go fishing with, or you dig up the soil for planting, and by the time you dig up, you're going to find a lot of earthworms moving back and forth. What are they doing? And if you look carefully at the soil, you notice that not only the earthworm is moving, but it is creating a pathway. Right? It is creating a pathway. And if you were to cut the soil cross-sectionally and look at the soil, you're going to see a lot of holes here and there and everywhere. What is happening there? You have spiders, you have cockroaches, you have all kind of insects back and forth, even rodents, all these. And at different time, all these die in the soil. The worm itself dies sometime, but before it dies now, it goes through the process of building tunnels, and that tunnel now offers oxygen, and by extension, the worm takes in a lot of decay matter from insects and animals and so on. And so all these are in the soil. It breaks down, it decays. It's good for the soil. It makes the soil rich. It doesn't make the soil bad. That's how nature provides for us. And that's why the earthworm is important, folks of mine, friends of mine. It is important. All right? Then we have the miracle of life. And what this is talking about itself is plants require soil, water, and carbon monoxide and sunshine to turn inorganic chemicals into what? Living matters. All right? So everything we need sunlight for vitamin D. Yeah. We need water. Yes. We need fresh air. We need to breathe well so we can exhale carbon monoxide and breathe in fresh air. So if you notice it parallel, everything that the soil needs, we need as man. And we are getting our sustenance from the soil. So it's important we understand the relationship between us and the soil. Right? Remember, we came from the soil. We were formed from the dust of the earth. Then God breathed to our nostril the breath of life. And so, if we were made from the dust, it means therefore that dust is the same dust composition that we need. Yeah, we need. Now, Through the action of sunlight on the chlorophyll in the green leaves, food is manufactured by the plant, right? Through the action of sunlight on the chlorophyll in green leaves, food is manufactured by the plant. Now, the nutrients manufactured by the plants includes protein, carbohydrates, and lipids in varying amount. All right? So the nutrients manufactured by plants include protein, carbohydrates, lipids in varying amount. Now, animals acquire these substances only by eating plants or other animals. All right? So animals also need the same thing that we need. All right? But the strange thing about it, we try our best to create the perfect environment, or an environment that we call perfect enough to raise animal so that we can fatten them, then we can kill them, and then we see we're getting good protein. But what you're getting, folks, is secondary protein. Because we just discovered that the same animals, and if you look at the cow and the sheep and the goat, look at what they eat. Plants. Why? That's what nature is. That's what their food is, plants. And we too have our plants that we need to eat. All right? So, the process by which we get our food, and the fact that we try to fatten the cow and the sheep and the goat and even the pig that we shouldn't eat to provide food for us doesn't make it correct. Nature's way dictates that our best diet is a plant-based diet, not necessarily a meat diet. Now, we know in some places things are not the best, and so you may find that folks have to subsist on animal flesh for food. That's understandable. God understands that. But when you have the opportunity to eat healthy, why don't we eat healthy? In some of these big countries of the world where they have good food, I'm not talking about good food. All of us travel to this place all the time. Some of us, we go to the Americas or to the European countries or the South American countries or places where they manufacture food in abundance, and we enjoy or fill up these things, the good stuff. But the sad reality is sometimes you have good stuff, but yet we still find to subsist on the bad stuff. All right? On the bad stuff. All right? And so we say here that nature to the rescue means that we have to come back to nature. Yes, come back to the soil, get our fingers dirty, yeah, around the house. It doesn't have to be big farm, but and that's why I know a lot of people encourage to have a backyard. Why? Because they recognizing the necessity, they recognizing that it is correct thing for us to do. Get back to nature. Even the governments are encouraging folks, get back to nature, have a backyard garden so you can supplement your income, so you can supplement and you can see what you're eating. You can avoid putting on the chemicals that the big folks put on there. You can do your own stuff. You can use your own natural resources around the house, and to do your stuff. You can ask anybody who have a backyard garden, and they will tell you, well, they don't necessarily use all these chemicals. They use different stuff. They use the neem tree bush. They use garlic, and they use other stuff to help to keep away all this stuff. And the plant grow well because of it. It can be done. We just have to have the will and the mindset to do so. Now, not only do the soil needs protecting, but we're told that the root hold the life of the plant in their grasp, the root. All right? It's interesting how plants get the food. All right? The tree grows. As it goes up, it goes down. And what is see above the soil, it is almost 3-4 times what is below the soil. Why? Because the root travels, and not it travels now, it is picking up the nutrients it needs. That's why you can have healthy food. Now, right now, we are in a drought situation, yes, and we discovered that there are certain foods that are not holding on the tree anymore. There are folks are planting trees, they're falling down. Why? Because lack of water. They're not getting the proper nutrients. We have breadfruit trees, they blossom in, but then the breadfruit, when they're the size of a baseball, they drop off. And so you're not getting what? Why? Because the soil itself is so depleted now. And then the added challenge is lack of water now, and that is causing some serious challenges for farmers. Not only for those who do a backyard garden, but even for those who do farming for a living on a large scale. Everybody's suffering because of lack of water. Now, what the water does, when there's water, the water not only soaks into the soil, but it's also working with the different stuff that the soil needs. It's bringing the dead leaves and dead insects and all these things to settle in the soil so that the soil replenishes itself, the soil get to be rebuilt, and as the soil is being rebuilt, then we are getting to have a proper soil situation so that we can get the best food. And that's why the root, all the nutrients is stored in the root. And so the tree feeds from the root, and the root gets all this substance from the soil. And so if it's going to get all this good substance from the soil, then the soil must be in the best shape that it can be. All right? Now, more food manufactured by plants may be stored in the root, or in the leaves, or the fruit, or the nut, or the seed. That is why there are certain foods that comes in seed form, in fruit form, in leaves form. Why? Because that's where the food is stored or the nutrients is stored. So you have the green leafy vegetables, you have the carrots, which is fruit, you have the vegetable, you have the fruits, right? And you have the nuts and grains, and you have the seeds. That's why you have different kind of seeds that you buy at the health food store. You have different kind of fruits, nuts, and grains that are manufactured, and the life is in the seed for some of these things. And that's why it's important that you need to subsist foods, nuts, and grain. Now, of course, there are those who have allergies, and so you find that there's some folks who can't eat peanuts, they can't eat almond, they can't eat cashew. Everybody have a challenge. But you got to know what your body can take and to use that judiciously so you can have the best food that is therein. All right? And so the food is stored in different parts. So when you see a nice mango, what has happened now, the root has moved the good stuff now and just fed the branch and the stem now, and so the food now is there. So when you pick a mango, or you pick lettuce, or tomatoes, or carrots, and so on, the food is contained in them. And all the nutrients are in them already because the root was able to supply them. And why was the root able to supply them? Because the nutrients was in the soil. And the root lives in the soil. Now, if you find a tree growing and then you start to see the root coming up, there's some problem. There's some erosion or there's a drought. And so you find that things are not going as well, and so they need to do something. Sometimes they get topsoil and they cover the root so as to not to cause the tree to die, etc. All right. Also, the covering of the root is to help keeping the moisture, because when the root is exposed to sunlight and other stuff now, it is drawing the moisture out, and so you're going to have a depletion in the fruit, etc. And then finally, we're looking at following nature's way. Nature can do wonderful things in terms of selecting the chemical right for each plant, the right plant for each animal to eat, and so forth. All right? Nature is able to select. We just got to allow nature to work. All right? Nature is a wonderful soil builder through the build-up and decay of organic matter and the activities of worm life and soil bacteria. Again, we see the idea of the worm come to play. The same earthworm that we catch to go fishing with, it has a purpose in the soil. So even though you want to go catch fish, try and find somewhere else to bait. Leave the worm to do its work to replenish the soil so we can have a good soil. And when we have good soil, we have good food. And then, since the dawn of science, technology, and industry in the last few centuries, we have prodded, poked, polluted, and provoked Mother Nature. Yeah? We have done all that. Maybe not us personally, but because of how things are done, we have provoked nature, we have polluted, and we have do all kind of stuff to disenfranchise nature. And so nature is rebelling. And so we can't get the benefits from nature. But if we put nature back in the right perspective, then of course we will get the balance we want in life, etc. Now, nature, our soil, have been depleted from ignorance and greed. Right? We have created convenient foods, fast foods, and preserved food, trying to save time and money and energy. And because of that, it has resulted in sickness, disease of various types. And the world is heading fast to the point where it is getting to a point of no return. But I'm saying to us this afternoon, we can avoid disease situation because when the body lacks nutrition, you have a diseased body. Very few things that will happen to you that is not related to nutrition. Yes, there are other stuff that will happen to you that is not nutrition wise, but if you check carefully, most things and most illnesses that we have is a result of lack of nutrition. And when the body is depleted in certain things, then it means that that part of the system gets weak. And when it gets weak, it breaks down. And when it breaks down, we get sick. And so, my friends, we're coming down to the end this afternoon. And we want to let you know that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And if you have enjoyed this afternoon broadcast, please join us here at Second Advent Radio. Call us at Second Advent Radio. WhatsApp us at Second Advent Radio. Tune in every week on our YouTube channel, our online channel, and also on our FM studio so you can get all this information so you can prepare yourself, you can prepare your family, and you can make sure that you're well fed and well fortified in the best things of life. So we want to thank you for listening. We trust and pray your hearts have been blessed. We know your minds have been tickled. You are a little bit challenged, but hey, this is truth for life. And you're listening to, or you have been listening to, your health and you. And also, your health is your wealth. So, my friends, we thank you for joining this afternoon. We look forward to seeing you again next week, the same time, same place, from 6 to 6:50. So, stick to Second Advent Radio. And apart from our program, you can tune into Second Advent Radio 24/7. We're on 24/7 with good music, good preaching, health tips, financial tips, you name it. Family life issues, it's all here at Second Advent Radio. It's all geared to make you a better person, but more importantly, to prepare you to meet your God. God bless you until we come again next time.
Thank you for listening to Your Health and You. I do hope that this health session